Hello. Are you guys doing alright today? You hear it now? Okay, I turned it up a little bit. Let me try and turn it up a bit more. I found some ambient music. I kind of like it. It's like sleepy time ambient music. Which kind of works, you know? It kind of works. But, yeah, so we're gonna ignore how OBS decided to pull a fuckery and go live on both channels because that was not supposed to happen. I just turned my microphone into the dual-sided. So, doing good. I think I did well on my physics exam. Oh, did you get tutored? I think you got tutored. I'm pretty sure that there was a bunch of people inside of Wampus's Discord that said, hey, let me help you. Fish isn't open yet. Hang on a second. Let me get to that. I need to get Fish open for the Holy. Otherwise the Holy's gonna be angry at me. Didn't get tutored, but you got old exams. Oh, you had that method. I see, I see. Here we go. Fish is loading up. There you go. There's Fish. You now have access to Fish. But yeah, so we're gonna ignore what happened with the main channel. Still on hiatus on the main channel, obviously. I just went on hiatus. That's not gonna change. Bless the dude that got last year's exam. It was almost exactly the same. Wow. Anyway, so if you didn't know this about the fish is actually the same items as on the previous channel because like it actually saves those inside of the fish program. So I don't have to like re-add all the different Otome men, you know? I could still eventually add more to our list and have a large collection of fish. But aside from that, today is going to be the last 5 chapters of Warriors Forest of Secrets. And in the previous 5 chapters, we had Fireheart get his apprentice, which was his sister's, you know, first, eldest child, kitty pet. And then we had some talk about how the 2 cats from the River Clan were actually, you know, the clan leaders of Thunder Clan. And that's why they are so similar, and why Blue Star was very adamant about it not mattering about their bloodline or loyalty. And aside from that, we also had some hints that, well, the big bad Tiger Claw may have had kids with someone as well. And that's pretty much all the stuff that's happened so far in the last 5 chapters. Because before that, they were attacked. Hang on a second. I feel like the calibration on this was off. Hang on. There we go. Now it's fixed. Now it's not looking down all the time. That's a lot better, isn't it? 100% better. So, a little bit before we get into the story this month, this is October. So, on the 31st, I will be doing the spooky reading stream. If you have any scripts that you'd like me to read, then you can actually suggest that in the Discord. Other than that, I'm trying to rewrite a story from back in high school, and hopefully that it actually gives the vibes that you guys want for Halloween. It's not a like romance or anything like that kind of story. It's a tragedy. So that's going to be on Halloween. And aside from that, let me switch ears. And we'll go into the chapters, which we are reading chapter 26 through 30. which are the last chapters of this book. We will be starting with chapter 26. Chapter 26. Fireheart tried to hide his misgivings as he led the 3 RiverClan warriors down the tunnel into the camp. Clan cats rarely visited each other's territory, and he wondered what was so urgent that it couldn't wait until the next gathering. Alerted by Cloudpaw, Bluestar was already seated at the foot of the high rock, and Fireheart's apprehension increased when he saw Tigerclaw was beside her. "Thank you, Cloudpaw." Bluestar dismissed the apprentice as Fireheart approached with the newcomers. "Take your fresh kill to the elders." Cloudpaw looked disappointed to be sent away, but he went without protest. "Hi, Yusna, welcome in. I just got started, so you got here right in time." Leopard Fur walked up to Bluestar and dipped her head respectfully. "Bluestar, come to your camp in peace. There's something we must discuss." Tigerclaw let out a low, disbelieving growl, as if he would rather be ripping the fur off than shooting cats, but Bluestar ignored him. "I can guess what brings you here," she meowed. "But what is there to discuss? What's done is done. Any punishment for Graystripe will be handled by his own clan." While she spoke to Leopardfur, Fireheart noticed. Her eyes kept straying to Mistyfoot and Stonefur. It was the first time Fireheart had seen his leader with the RiverClan warriors since she had admitted to him that they were her kits. He did not think he was imagining the wistfulness in her blue eyes as she looked at them. "What you say is true," Leopardfur agreed. The 2 young cats were foolish, but Silverstream is dead, and Graystripe's punishment is not for RiverClan to decide. They've come here about the kits." "What about them?" asked Bluestar. "The RiverClan kits," meowed Leopardfur. "We've come to take them home." "RiverClan kits?" Bluestar's eyes narrowed. "Why do you say that?" "And how do you know about them?" Tigerclaw demanded, glaring in fury as he sprang to his paws. "Have you been spying, or did some cat tell you?" He turned on Fireheart as he spoke, but Fireheart stood his ground, and Mistyfoot kept quiet, not betraying him by so much as a glance. Tigerclaw couldn't know for sure that he had told Mistyfoot, and Fireheart refused to regret what he had done. RiverClan had the right to know. "Sit down, Tigerclaw," murmured Bluestar. She flashed a look at Fireheart, and then he realized that his leader guessed what he had done, as surely as if she had seen him cross the river. But she didn't intend to give him away. Who knows? Perhaps a RiverClan patrol saw what happened. Such things can't be hidden for long. But Leopardfur, she went on, turning her back to the visiting deputy. "The kits are also half ThunderClan, and one of our queens is taking good care of them. Why should I give them to you?" Hang on a second, it's still bugging me how the calibration's going. Sometimes that G-Force calibration is kind of wonky. Okay, there we go. "Kits belong with their mother's clan," Leopardfur explained. "RiverClan would have raised these kits if Silverstream had lived, without knowing who the father was, and that makes them ours by right." "Bluestar, you can't send the kits away." Fireheart couldn't stop himself from interrupting. They're all Graystripe has to live for. A growl rumbled once again in Tiger Claw's throat, but it was Bluestar who answered. Fireheart, be quiet. This doesn't concern you. Yes, it does. Fireheart dared to meow. Graystripe's my friend. Silence, hissed Tiger Claw. Does your leader have to tell you twice? Graystripe is a traitor to his clan. He has no right to the kits or anything else. Rage flooded through Fireheart. Had Tiger Claw no respect for Graystripe's terrible grief? He whirled on the deputy, held back from springing at him only because the cats of another clan were looking on. Tiger Claw bared his teeth in a snarl. Bluestar flicked her tail angrily at the both of them. Enough, she ordered. Leopardfur, I admit RiverClan has some right to the kits. But so does ThunderClan. Besides, the kits are small and weak. They can't travel yet, especially across the river. It's too dangerous. Leopardfur's hackles began to rise, and her eyes narrowed to slits. You're just making excuses. No, Bluestar insisted. Not excuses. Would you risk the kids' lives? I'll think about what you have said, discuss it with my warriors, and give you our answer at the next gathering. Now get out of our camp, growled Tiger Claw. Leopardfur hesitated, as if she would like to have said more, but it was clear that Bluestar had dismissed her. After a few tense moments, she dipped her head again and turned to go. With Mistyfoot and Stonefur behind her, Tiger Claw stalked across the clearing with them as far as the tunnel. Left alone with Bluestar, Fireheart felt his anger begin to fade, but he couldn't help renewing his pleas. You can't let them take the kits. You know how Graystripe would feel. The bleak look Bluestar gave him made him wonder if he had gone too far. But her voice was soft as she replied, Yes, Fireheart, I know. And I would give much to keep these kits. But how far will RiverClan go to take them? Will they fight? How many ThunderClan warriors would risk their lives for kits that are half RiverClan? Fireheart's fur prickled with fear of the picture she painted. Clans at war over Mulin kits, or ThunderClan split against itself as warriors fought amongst themselves. Was that the fate that StarClan had decreed for his clan when Spottedleaf warned that water could quench fire? Perhaps it wasn't the floodwater that could destroy the ThunderClan, but the cats that came from the territory by the river. Have courage, Fireheart, urged Bluestar. It hasn't come to a battle just yet. And I've won us time until the gathering. Who knows what will happen before then? Fireheart couldn't share her confidence. The problem of the kits would not go away, as he could do nothing except bow his head respectfully and withdraw to the warrior's den. And now, he thought despairingly, what am I going to tell Graystripe? By the time Silverpelt stretched across the sky, the whole ThunderClan seemed to know why the RiverClan cats had come. Fireheart guessed that Tiger Claw had told his favorite warriors and they had spread the news to the rest of the clan. As Bluestar had predicted, opinions were divided. Many cats thought that the sooner the clan was rid of these half-breed kits, the better. But there are still several who are prepared to fight. If only because to give up the kits would mean that RiverClan had won. Through it all, Graystripe remained silent, brooding in the warrior's den. He left it only once to visit the nursery. When Fireheart brought him fresh kill, he turned his head away. He hadn't eaten since Silverstream died, as far as Fireheart could tell, and he was looking gaunt and ill. "Is there anything you can do for him?" Fireheart asked Yellowfang, going to her den as soon as he woke the following day. "He won't eat. He can't sleep." The old medicine cat shook her head. "There's no herb to heal a broken heart," she murmured. "Only time will do that." "I feel so helpless," Fireheart confessed. "If friendship helps," Yellowfang rasped. "He might not realize it now, but one day he—" She broke off as Cinderpaw appeared and dropped a bunch of herbs at Yellowfang's feet. "Are these the right ones?" she asked. Yellowfang gave the herbs a quick sniff. "Yes, that's right," she mewed. "We can't eat before the ceremony," she added. "But I will. I'm too old and creaky to get to Highstones and back without something to keep me going." She crouched in front of the herbs and began to gulp them down. "Highstones?" Fireheart echoed. "Ceremony? Cinderpaw, what's going on?" "It's the half-moon tonight," Cinderpaw mewed happily. "Yellowfang and I are going to Mothermouth so I can be made a proper apprentice." She gave a joyful wriggle. Fireheart felt a wave of relief that she seemed to be over her despair after Silverstream's death, and was looking forward again to her life as a medicine cat. Her eyes had recovered all their old sparkle, but there was a new wisdom and thoughtfulness in her blue depths now. She was growing up, Fireheart thought, with an old feeling of regret. His enthusiastic, sometimes scatterbrained apprentice was maturing into a cat of great inner strength and power. He knew he should rejoice in the path StarClan had chosen for her. But part of him wished that they could still go out together on the hunting trail. "I'll come with you tonight if you like," he offered. "As far as Four Trees, anyway." "Oh, would you, Fireheart? Thank you," Cinderpaw mewed. "But no farther than Four Trees," warned Yellowfang, getting to her paws and swiping her tongue around her mouth. "Tonight, at Mothermouth, is for medicine cats only." She gave herself a brisk shake and led the way through the ferns to the clearing. As Fireheart followed behind Cinderpaw, he saw Cloudpaw washing himself by the tree stump outside the apprentice's den. White Tom sprang up as soon as he saw Fireheart and raced across to him. "Where are you going?" he demanded. "Can I come?" "I see you guys are enjoying fish." Fireheart glanced at Yellowfang, and when the old cat voiced no objection, he replied, "All right, it'll be good exercise for you, and we can hunt on the way back." Yeesh. Trotting up the ravine beside the she-cats, he explained to Cloudpaw where they were going and how Yellowfang and Cinderpaw would carry on alone to the Highstones. Deep within the tunnel known as Mothermouth was the Moonstone. It glittered dazzling white when the moon shone upon it. Cinderpaw's ceremony would take place in the unearthly light. What happens then? Cloudpaw asked curiously. The ceremonies are secret, growled Yellowfang. But don't ask Cinderpaw. When she comes back, she isn't allowed to tell you. But every cat knows that she'll receive special powers from StarClan, Fireheart added. Special powers? Cloudpaw's eyes grew round, and he gazed at Cinderpaw, as if he expected her to start uttering prophecies there and then. Don't worry. I'll still be the same old Cinderpaw, she amused him with a purr. That won't ever change. The sun grew hot as the 4 cats made their way to 4 trees. Fireheart was thankful for the deep shade under the trees and the cool freshness of long grass and the clumps of fern as they brushed against his orange fur. All his senses were alert, and he kept Cloudpaw busy, scenting the air and reporting on what he could smell. Fireheart hadn't forgotten the attack from ShadowClan and WindClan. They had been defeated once, but that didn't mean they wouldn't try again to kill Brokentail. Besides that, Fireheart was half expecting trouble from RiverClan over Graystripe's kits. He sighed. On a beautiful morning like this, with fresh green on trees and prey practically leaping out of the bushes and waiting to be caught, it was hard to be thinking of attacks and death. In spite of his worries, the group of cats reached 4 trees without trouble. As they slid through the bushes down into the hollow, Fireheart dropped back to match Cinderpaw's uneven steps. Are you sure about what you're doing? He asked quietly. Is this what you really want? Of course. Don't you see, Fireheart? Cinderpaw's eye searched his, suddenly serious. I have to learn as much as I can, so that no cat dies because I couldn't save them, like Silverstream. Fireheart flinched. He longed for a way to persuade his friend that Silverstream's death was not her fault, but he knew he would be wasting his breath. And would that make you happy? You know medicine cats can't ever have kits, he reminded her, thinking of how Yellowfang had been forced to give up Brokentail and keep her bond with him a secret. Cinderpaw purred to comfort him. The whole clan will be my kits, she promised, even the warriors. Yellowfang says they have about as much sense as newborns sometimes. She took a pace forward that brought her to Fireheart's side and rubbed her face affectionately against his. But you'll always be my best friend, Fireheart. I'll never forget that you were my first mentor. Fireheart licked her ear. Goodbye, Cinderpaw, he mewed softly. I'm not going away forever, Cinderpaw protested. I'll be back by sunset tomorrow. But Fireheart knew that in some ways, Cinderpaw was going away forever. When she returned, she would have new powers and responsibilities, given to her not by the clan leader, but by StarClan. Side by side, they crossed the hollow beneath the 4 massive oaks and climbed the far slope to where Yellowfang and Cloudpaw were already waiting. The vast open moor stretched in front of them, a cool wind bending the sturdy clumps of heather. Won't WindClan attack you if you go through their territory? Cloudpaw mewed anxiously. All the clans may pass through safely on the way to Highstones, Yellowfang told him, and no warrior would dare to attack medicine cats. StarClan forbid. Turning to Cinderpaw, she asked, Are you ready? Yes, I'm coming. Cinderpaw gave Fireheart one final lick and followed the old cat out onto the springy moorland grass. The breeze ruffled her fur as she limped swiftly away without a backward glance. Fireheart watched her go, his heart heavy. He knew his friend was at the beginning of a new and happier life. But all the same, he could not stifle a pang of bittersweet regret for the life that could have been hers. Fireheart watched the sun climbing the trees. Tiger Claw wants me to send Cloudpaw on a solo hunting mission today, he meowed to Graystripe. The big gray warrior looked up in surprise. That's early, isn't it? He's barely been made an apprentice. Fireheart shrugged. Tiger Claw thinks he's ready. He told me to follow him and see how he does anyway. Would you like to come and help? It was the morning after Cinderpaw had returned from Mother Math. Fireheart had met her as she slipped down the ravine in the twilight. Though she greeted him affectionately, they both knew she could not tell him what she had gone through. Her face still wore a look of rapture, and the moon itself seemed to shine from her eyes. Fireheart tried hard to not feel that he had lost her to an unknown path. Now he sat beside the nettle patch, enjoying a juicy mouse. Graystripe, crouching nearby, had taken a magpie from the pile, but he had barely touched it. No, thanks, Fireheart, he mewed. I promised Goldenflower I'd look on the kits. Their eyes are open now, he added with a touch of pride. Fireheart guessed that Goldenflower would rather Graystripe stayed away, but he knew Graystripe would never persuade to be left. Hang on a second. I need more water. He knew Graystripe would never be persuaded to leave his kits. Okay, he meowed. I'll see you later. Swallowing the last morsel of mouse, he went to find Cloudpaw. Tiger Claw had been busy that morning, sending one out on patrol with Whitestorm to renew the scent markings along the RiverClan boundary, and another with Sandstorm to hunt around Snake Rocks. So he had neglected to tell Fireheart where Cloudpaw should go for his hunting mission. Fireheart hadn't felt the need to remind him. You can make for the two-leg place, he meowed to Cloudpaw. Then you won't get in the way of the other patrols. You won't see me, but I'll be watching you. I'll meet you by Princess's fence. Can I talk to her if she's there? Cloudpaw asked. Okay, as long as you caught plenty of fresh kill by then. But you're not to go looking for her in the Two-Leg Gardens or their nests. I won't. Cloudpaw's eyes gleamed, and his snowy fur was fluffed up in excitement. Fireheart couldn't help remembering how nervous he had felt before his own first assessment. Cloudpaw, in contrast, was bursting with confidence. Off you go, then, Fireheart meowed. Try to get there by sun high. He watched the young apprentice race off towards the tunnel. Pace yourself, he called after him. You have a long way to go. But Cloudpaw didn't slow down as he disappeared into the gorse. Shrugging, more amused than annoyed, Fireheart glanced around at Graystripe, but his friend was nowhere to be seen. His half-eaten magpie was left beside the nettle patch. He must be in the nursery already, Fireheart thought, and turned to follow Cloudpaw out of the camp. The apprentice's scent was strong, showing where the young cat had ranged back and forth through the woods in search of prey. A flurry of loose feathers told of a caught thrush, and the specks of blood on the grass showed that a mouse had fallen to its claws. Not far from the edge of the tall pines, Fireheart found the spot where Cloudpaw had buried his fresh kill so he could return for it later. Impressed that his apprentice was hunting well so early in his training, Fireheart put on speed, hoping to catch up and watch him stalking his prey. But before he reached the Two Lake place, he caught sight of Cloudpaw racing back along his own scent trail, his fur bristling and a wild light in his eyes. Cloudpaw! Fireheart ran forwards to meet him, his body tingling with sudden fear. Cloudpaw skidded to a halt, his claws scouting pine needles, barely managing to avoid collision with Fireheart. Something's wrong, he panted. What? Icy claws clutched at Fireheart's belly. Not Princess. No, nothing like that. But I saw Tiger Claw, and there were some strange cats around him. At Two Lake Place, Fireheart meowed sharply. Where we smelled them the day we visited Princess. That's right. Cloudpaw's whiskers twitched. They were huddled together, just on the edge of the trees. I tried to get closer to hear what they were saying, but I was afraid they would see my white fur, so I came to find you. You did the right thing, Fireheart told him, his mind racing frantically. What were these cats like? Did they have clan scent? No. Cloudpaw wrinkled his nose. They smelled of crow food. And he didn't recognize them? Cloudpaw shook his head. They were thin and hungry looking. Their fur was all mangy. They were horrible, Fireheart. And they were talking to Tiger Claw. Fireheart frowned. That was the detail that worried him. You could guess who the strange cats were. The former Shadow Clan warriors who had left their clan with Broken Tail when he had been driven out. They caused trouble before, and there are no other rogues that Fireheart knew of in the forest now. But what Tiger Claw was doing with them was a mystery. All right, he mewed to Cloudpaw. Follow me and keep as quiet as if you're creeping up on a mouse. He headed cautiously toward the Two Lake place, stalking from paw to paw over the soft, crackling pine needles. Long before he reached the edge of the forest, he picked up the strong reek of cats. The only one he couldn't identify was Tiger Claw, and as if he thought he had summoned him, the deputy came to sight at that moment, bounding through the trees in the direction of camp. There was no undergrowth to provide cover under the pine trees. All Fireheart and Cloudpaw could do was flatten themselves in one of the deep furrows carved out by the tree-cut monster, and pray to StarClan they wouldn't be seen. A group of scrawny warriors poured after Tiger Claw. The jaws were parted eagerly and their eyes blazed. All the cats were intent on the trail that they never noticed Fireheart and Cloudpaw, crouching in their scant cover, a few rabbit hops away. Fireheart lifted his head and watched them race out of sight. For a moment, he was frozen with horror and disbelief. There were more of them, he realized, than the group that had left Shadow Clan with Broken Tail moons before. Tiger Claw must have recruited more loners from somewhere, and he was leading them straight towards Thunder Camp. That was the end of chapter 26, so I'm going to take a short break before we continue on to chapter 27. That was actually a pretty long chapter. I will be right back. I'm back. Are you guys ready for chapter 27? It seems that we're gonna have some interaction with these rogues. Chapter 27. Run! Fireheart ordered his apprentice. Run like you've never run before. Already he was pelting through the trees, not waiting to see if Cloudpaw would keep up. There was just a faint hope that he could outpace Tigerclaw and the rogues and warn the clan. He sent out all those patrols this morning, Fireheart thought, fighting back in panic. And he told me to follow Cloudpaw. He left the camp with barely a warrior to defend it. He was planning this all along. Fireheart hurtled through the trees, his powerful muscles bunching and stretching as he drove himself on. But when he reached the ravine, he realized that he had not run fast enough. The hindquarters and tails of the last of the rogues were just vanishing into the gorse tunnel. Launching himself down the steep side of the ravine, with Cloudpaw scrabbling down beside him, Fireheart let out a yell. ThunderClan! Enemies! Attack! He hurled himself into the tunnel, and at the same moment he heard another yell from the camp ahead. To me, ThunderClan! It was the familiar battle cry, but the voice was Tigerclaw's. A thought flickered into Fireheart's shocked mind. What if he had made a mistake? What if the rogues had been chasing Tigerclaw, not following him? He burst into the clearing just as Tigerclaw whirled on the band of rogues. He scattered, yowling from his attack. The deputy certainly looked as if he were trying to drive the enemies from camp. But Fireheart was close enough to see that his claws were sheathed. His heart plummeted. Tigerclaw's brave defense was all a sham. He had brought the enemy cats here, but he was cunning enough to conceal his own treachery. There was no time for any more thought. However they had come here, the rogue cats were now attacking the camp. Fireheart turned swiftly to Cloudpaw. Go and find the patrols and tell them to come back, he ordered. Whitestorm is somewhere along the RiverClan boundary, and Sandstorm went to Snake Rocks. Yes, Fireheart. Cloudpaw raced back into the tunnel. Fireheart sprang at the nearest rogue, a dark mottled tabby, raked his claws down his side. The rogue snarled and twisted towards him, paws splayed for attack. He tried to pin Fireheart down. Fireheart's hind legs pummeled his belly, and the rogue broke away howling. Fireheart scrambled to his paws and crouched, with tail lashing and fur bristling, as he looked around for another enemy. Outside the entrance to the nursery, Graystripe was wrestling a rogue with a pale coat, the two of them rolling over and over as they tried to get a hold with teeth and claws. Brindleface and Speckletail were fighting against a warrior twice their size. Near the warrior's den, Mousefur dug her front claws into the shoulder of a huge tabby, while her back claws shredded his flank. Then Fireheart froze with shock. At the other side of the clearing, Broken-Tail had pounced on his guard, Dustpelt, fastening his teeth in the younger cat's throat. Dustpelt was struggling furiously to free himself. But Broken-Tail was blind. He was still a formidable warrior, and he had hung on. Fireheart realized with dread that he was fighting on the side of his old rogue companions, the cats who had left ShadowClan with him, not for ThunderClan, who had risked so much to defend him when he was injured and alone. A tiny picture flashed in Fireheart's mind of Tigerclaw and Broken-Tail laying side by side, sharing tongues. That had not been evidence of the deputy's compassion. Tigerclaw had been planning this with the former ShadowClan tyrant. There was no time to think about that now. Fireheart plunged across the clearing to help Dustpaw. Not Dustpaw, Dustpelt. You know, there's so many, paws at the end of these names. Sometimes I just mess up. Oh. My model just winked out from me drinking water. Oh my god. That was so funny. Fireheart plunged across the clearing to help Dustpelt, but before he got halfway, he was bowled over by a rogue cat. His flank stung as claws raked down it. Green eyes glared a mouse length from his own. Fireheart bared his fangs and tried to bite down into the enemy's shoulder, but the rogue cat batted him away. Claws ripped into his ear. His belly was exposed and he couldn't twist free. Suddenly, his attacker let out a wail and released him. Fireheart caught a glimpse of the young apprentice, Thornpaw, with his teeth fashioned into the rogue's tail. The rogue dragged him through the dust until Thornpaw released him and the enemy fled. Panting, Fireheart scrambled to his paws. "Thanks," he gasped. "Well done." Thornpaw nodded briefly before racing off to where Graystripe still battled in front of the nursery. Fireheart looked around again. Dustpelt had vanished and Broken-Tail was stumbling farther into the clearing, letting out a weird wailing that struck a chill into Fireheart's heart. Even blind, the former ShadowClan leader possessed a terrifying power that seemed driven by something more than mortal. The clearing heaved with struggling cats. But as Fireheart poised himself to rejoin the fray, he realized something that sent an even colder pang of fear along his spine. Where was Bluestar? In a heartbeat, Fireheart realized they couldn't see Tigerclaw either. Every instinct told him that danger was looming. He dodged around Willowpelt, who was clinging to the back of a much bigger rogue, her teeth fashioned in his ear, and made for Bluestar's den. To his relief, as he approached the entrance, he heard Bluestar meow from inside. "We can worry about that later, Tiger Claw. The clan needs us now." For a few heartbeats there was no reply, and Fireheart heard Bluestar's voice again, surprised. "Tiger Claw, what are you doing?" An answering snarl. "Remember me to Star Clan, Bluestar." "Tiger Claw, what is this?" Bluestar's meow was sharper now, edged with anger, not fear. "I'm the leader of your clan. Or have you forgotten that?" "Not for much longer," Tiger Claw growled. "I'm going to kill you, and kill you again. As many times as it takes for you to join Star Clan forever. It's time for me to lead this clan." Bluestar's answering protest was suddenly cut short by the sound of paws thudding against the hard floor of the den, followed by a dreadful snarling. And that's the end of chapter 27. Oh my. We knew it was gonna happen. There's the signs. We knew that was gonna happen. There was the signs. Can't say I like that poor Bluestar's getting attacked by Tiger Claw, but I kind of want to know what happens next. I'm gonna skip the break because I want to know what happens next. Chapter 28. Fireheart sprang forwards and burst through the curtain of lichen. Tiger Claw and Bluestar were writhing on the floor of the den. Bluestar's claw scored again and again across Tiger Claw's shoulder, but the deputy's greater weight kept her pinned down in the soft sand. Tiger Claw's fangs were buried in her throat, and his powerful claws raked her back. "Traitor!" Fireheart yowled. He flung himself at Tiger Claw, slashing at his eyes. The deputy reared back, forced to release his grip on Bluestar's throat. Fireheart felt his claws ripping through the deputy's ear, spraying blood into the air. Bluestar scrambled to the side of the den, looking half-stunned. Fireheart could not tell how badly hurt she was. Pain lanced through him as Tiger Claw gashed his side with a blow from his powerful hind paws. Fireheart's paws skidded in the sand, and he lost his balance, hitting the ground with Tiger Claw on top of him. The deputy's amber eyes blazed into his. "Mouse stung," he hissed. "I'll flay you, Fireheart. I've waited a long time for this." Fireheart summoned every scrap of skill and strength he possessed. He knew Tiger Claw could kill him, but in spite of that, he felt strangely free. The lies and the need for deceit were over. The secrets, Bluestar's and Tiger Claw's, were all out in the open. There was only the clean danger of battle. He aimed a blow at Tiger Claw's throat, but the deputy swung his head to one side, and Fireheart's claw scraped harmlessly through thick tabby fur. But the blow had loosened Tiger Claw's grip on him. Fireheart rolled away, narrowly avoiding a killing bite to his neck. "Kitty pet," Tiger Claw taunted, flexing his haunches to pounce again. "Come and find out how a real warrior fights." He threw himself at Fireheart, but at the last moment, Fireheart darted aside. As Tiger Claw tried to turn in the narrow den, his paws slipped on a splash of blood, and he crashed awkwardly onto one side. At once, Fireheart saw his chance. His claws sliced down to open a gash in Tiger Claw's belly. Blood welled up, soaking into the deputy's fur. He let out a high-pitched caterwaul. Fireheart pounced on him, raking claws across his belly again and fastening his teeth into Tiger Claw's neck. The deputy struggled vainly to free himself, his thrashing growing weaker as the blood flowed. Fireheart let go of his neck, planting one paw on Tiger Claw's outstretched foreleg and the other on his chest. "Bluestar," he called. "Help me hold him down." Bluestar was crouching behind him in her moss-lined nest. Blood trickled down her forehead, but that did not alarm Fireheart as much as the look in her eyes. They were vague, cloudy blue, and she stared, horror-struck, in front of her, as if she was witnessing the destruction of everything she had ever worked for. When Fireheart spoke, he jumped, like a cat woken suddenly from sleep. Moving with dreamlike slowness, she crossed the den and pinned herself across Tiger Claw's hindquarters, trapping him. Even with wounds that would have stunned a lesser cat, Tiger Claw still fought to free himself. His amber eyes burned with hatred as he spat curses at Fireheart and Bluestar. A shadow fell across the entrance to the den, and Fireheart heard hoarse, ragged breathing. He turned his head, expecting to see one of the invaders, but it was Graystripe. Dismay flooded over Fireheart, the sight of his friend. He was bleeding heavily from his flank and one foreleg, and blood bubbled from his mouth as he stammered, "Bluestar, we..." He broke off, staring. "Fireheart, what's happening?" Tiger Claw attacked Bluestar. Fireheart told him quickly, "You were right all along. He is a traitor. He brought the rogues to attack us." Graystripe went on staring, and then shook himself as if he had just climbed out of deep water. "We're losing the fight," he meowed. "There are too many of them. Bluestar, we need your help." The leader looked at him, but did not reply. Fireheart could see that her eyes were still dull and unseeing, as if the discovery of the truth about Tiger Claw had bruised her spirit beyond repair. "I'll come," Fireheart offered. "Graystripe, need help Bluestar hold on to Tiger Claw. We'll deal with him when the battle's over." "You can try, kitty pet," Tiger Claw sneered through a mouthful of sand. Graystripe limped across the den and took Fireheart's place, planting his claws on Tiger Claw's chest. For a heartbeat, Fireheart hesitated, uncertain that the wounded Graystripe and Bluestar, in a state of shock, would be a match for Tiger Claw. But the deputy was still losing blood, and his struggles were definitely getting weaker. Swiftly, Fireheart turned and raced outside again. At first glance, the clearing seemed to be filled with rogues, as if all of the UnderClan warriors had been driven out. Then Fireheart caught a glimpse of familiar shapes here and there, long tails squirming underneath a huge tabby tom, Patchpelt scrabbling just out of reach of a skinny gray outlaw, whirling around to rake his nose with outstretched claws before he hurled himself at the rogue's belly. Fireheart tried to collect his strength. The fight with Tiger Claw had exhausted him, and the wounds where the deputy had clawed him burned like fire. He did not know how long he could keep on. He rolled over instinctively as a ginger she-cat tried to drive her claws into his back. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw a lithe, blue-gray body racing across the clearing, yowling a challenge. Bluestar, he thought in astonishment, and wondered what had happened to Tiger Claw. Then he realized that the warrior he had seen was not Bluestar. It was Mistyfoot. With a massive effort, Fireheart tore free of the ginger cat and scrambled to his paws. RiverClan warriors were pouring out of the tunnel. Leopard Fur, Stonefur, Blackclaw. After them came White Storm and the rest of his patrol. They were strong and full of energy, and they fell on the invaders, with claws outstretched and tails lashing in fury. Terrified by the sudden appearance of reinforcements, the rogue cat scattered. The ginger she-cat fled with a shocked howl. Others followed her. Fireheart staggered a few paces in pursuit, hissing and spitting to speed them on their way. But there was no need. Surprised when they thought their victory was certain, and leaderless now that Tiger Claw had been caught, the rogues had no fight left in them. Within a few heartbeats, they were gone. The old enemy remaining was Broken Tail, bleeding badly from head and shoulders. Blind Cat scrabbled on the ground, mewling faintly like a sick kit. The RiverClan cats were gathering together again, and murmurs of concern as Fireheart limped across to them. "Thank you," he meowed. "I've never been so glad to see any cats in my life." "I recognize some of the old ShadowClan warriors," Leopard Fur told him gravely. "The ones who laughed with Broken Star." Yes. Fireheart didn't want to say anything yet about Tiger Claw's involvement. "How did he know we needed help?" he asked, puzzled. "We didn't," replied Mistyfoot. "Came to talk to Blue Star about it." "Not now," Leopard Fur interrupted, though Fireheart guessed that Mistyfoot was going to say about the kids. ThunderClan needs time to recover." She dipped her head graciously toward Fireheart. "We are glad to have helped. Tell your leader we will return soon." "Yes, I will," Fireheart promised. "And thanks again." He watched the RiverClan cats leave, then looked around, feeling his shoulders sag with tiredness. Who the heck is pinging me right now? Oh, it's someone's announcement, of course. Of course they're pinging me right now, right? He watched the RiverClan cats leave, then looked around, feeling his shoulders sag with tiredness. The clearing was littered with blood and fur. Yellowfang and Cinderpaw were beginning to examine the injured cats. Though Fireheart hadn't noticed them in the fighting, they both bore the marks of enemy claws. He took a deep breath. It was time to deal with Tiger Claw. He did not know if he could summon the strength. His wounds throbbed with pain, and every muscle in his body shrieked a protest with each step. As he limped towards Blue Star's den, a voice sounded behind him. "Fireheart, what happened?" "Hey, good job, SiriBot. Ban that fucking bot. How dare it come in here?" He turned to see Sandstorm, newly returned at the head of her hunting patrol, with Cloudpaw panting just behind her. She was staring around the clearing as if she couldn't believe what she saw. Fireheart shook his head wearily. "Broken Tail's outlaws," he grunted. "Again?" Sandstorm spat with disgust. Maybe Blue Star would think twice about sheltering Broken Tail now. It's more complicated than that. Fireheart felt unable to explain right then. "Sandstorm, will you do something for me and not ask questions?" Sandstorm gave him a suspicious look. "Depends on what it is." "Go to Blue Star's den and deal with what you find there. Better take another warrior, too. Brackenfur, will you go? Blue Star will tell you what to do." "At least I hope so," Fireheart added to himself. as Sandstorm was still frowning, jerked her head at Brackenfur and headed for the High Rock. Out of everything that had happened, what disturbed Fireheart most was how Bluestar seemed to have lost her will to lead her clan. Fireheart stood numbly in the center of the clearing, watching as Yellowfang examined Broken-Tail, and then began half pushing, half dragging him towards her den. The former Shadow Clan leader was barely conscious, and the trickle of blood ran from the corner of his mouth. She obviously still cares for him, Fireheart thought in confusion. Even after all this, she can't forget he was once her kid. Turning away from Yellowfang, Fireheart saw Sandstorm emerging from the den beneath the high rock. She was followed by Tigerclaw, who struggled forward with an odd, lurching gait. His fur was matted with dust and blood, and one eye was half closed. He stumbled to a halt and collapsed in front of the rock. Brackenfur trailed him closely, alert for any sign that the deputy intended to attack or flee. Behind him came Bluestar. Her head was drooping and her tail dragged into the dust. Fireheart's worst fears flooded back. The strong leader Fireheart had respected seemed to have vanished, leaving instead this frail, wounded cat. The last of all, Graystripe limped out of the den and sank down on his side in the shade of the high rock. Cinderpaw hurried over to him and began to inspect his wounds with an anxious frown. Bluestar raised her head and looked around. "Come here, all of you," she rasped, beckoning with a flick of her tail. While the rest of the clan was gathering, Fireheart padded over to Cinderpaw. "Can you give Tigerclaw anything for his wounds?" he asked. Something to ease the pain. He thought he had wanted to defeat Tigerclaw more than anything. But now he found he could not bear the sight of the once great warrior bleeding to death in the dust. Cinderpaw looked up from her examination of Graystripe. To Fireheart's relief, he didn't challenge his request for her to treat the treacherous deputy. "Sure," she meowed. "I'll fetch something." Okay, I paused. Pause, book, pause. Oh, hi, Husky. Welcome in. Do you like the little Kami-sama kiss gift that I use with a raid? Fight you? No way. I'm not gonna fight you. I don't need to fight you to win. Welcome in. Hi, Raiders. Hi, Husky. I guess you got tired of Frag Punk, huh? I guess I should probably close out of that since you raided it to me, Sussy Baka. So yeah, hi you guys. Scriptsune, book reading Kitsune, currently reading Warriors, Book 3, Forest of Secrets, chapters 26 through 30. How are you doing, Husky? Do you need a raid and run? I know that you probably are tired. You're getting close to there. Usually you fall asleep at like 10 my time. Winter Frag, Alien Isolation, then a game no one knows about. Oh, hi Twee. Welcome in, Twee. You weren't following this channel before. Hi Twee. 20th, yeah, the 20th on this channel. Congratulations. Top 100. Top 100 animes. Then a game no one knows about, but it is what it is. What's the game? What's the game that no one knows about? What is it? I was waiting for a round number. Ah, you wanted to be number 20. What happens if someone unfollows me? Then you'd like be number 19. Shattered. Tale of the Forgotten Key. I feel like I've heard of that. But like I haven't really paid attention to it. If that makes sense. Unfortunate, but I'll live. Oh, okay. You've heard me talk about it. Yeah, yeah. See? See, you talk shit all the time. You talk shit all the time. Anyway, if you have to raid and run, Husky, don't worry. I know that you gotta get the EPs. Because, you know, you work on the Saturday, but it kind of sucks because that's usually weekend for everyone else. But a little snippet of what's currently happening is that Tiger Claw betrayed the clan, and Blue Star seems pretty out of it, and that's what's currently happening in the last 5 chapters so far. I talk so much shit, what about it? I'm a deaf chill than eat for works. Okay. You get a good rest. I hope that the EPs find you. Lurk if you want. Other than that, Sussy Baka, get some rest. And don't forget to drink some water before you do, because I never know with you, you might be drinking. Anyway, I'm super curious of what's happening right now because they're currently going to chat about dealing with Tiger Claw because of the betrayal just now. So I'm gonna get back to that because I want to know. I wants to know. I'm gonna have to read back a little bit because I lost my spot. The husky spooked me. I was not expecting a husky raid. Anyway, continuing on. Cinderpaw looked up from her examination of Greystripe. To Fireheart's relief, she didn't challenge his request for her to treat the treacherous deputy. Sure, she meowed. I'll fetch something for Greystripe as well. She limped away in the direction of Yellowfang's den. The clan cats had taken their places by the time she returned. Fireheart could see them looking at one another, uneasily wondering what all this might mean. Cinderpaw limped over with a wad of herbs in her mouth. She dropped some of them beside Tiger Claw and gave the rest to Greystripe. The deputy sniffed the leaves suspiciously and then began to chew on them. Bluestar watched him for a moment and then began to speak. I present you with Tiger Claw, now a prisoner. He... A chorus of worried murmurs interrupted her. The clan cats were looking at each other in shock and dismay. Fireheart could see they did not understand what was happening. A prisoner? Darkstripe echoed. Tiger Claw's your deputy. What has he done? I'll tell you. Bluestar's voice sounded more steady now, but Fireheart could see the effort it was costing her. Just now, in my den, Tiger Claw attacked me. He would have killed me if Fireheart hadn't arrived in time. The sounds of protest and disbelief swelled even louder. From the back of the crowd, an elder let out an eerie wailing. Darkstripe got to his paws. He was one of Tiger Claw's strongest supporters. Fireheart knew, but even he was looking uncertain. There must be some mistake, he blustered. Bluestar raised her chin. You think I can't tell when a cat tries to murder me? She inquired dryly. But Tiger Claw... Fireheart sprang up. Tiger Claw is a traitor to the clan. he spat. "You brought the rogues here today." Darkstripe rounded on him. "You'd never have done that. Prove it, kitty pet." Fireheart glanced at Bluestar. She nodded and beckoned him forwards. "Fireheart, tell the clan what you know. Everything." Fireheart padded slowly to his side. Now that the moment for revealing everything had come, he was strangely reluctant. It was as though he were pulling down the high rock and nothing would ever be the same again. "Cats of ThunderClan," he began. His voice squeaked like a kit's and he paused to control it. "Cats of ThunderClan, do you remember when Redtail died? Tigerclaw told you that it was Oakheart that killed him. But he was lying. It was Tigerclaw who killed Redtail." "How do you know?" That was Longtail, with the usual sneer on his face. "You weren't at the battle." "I know because I talked to someone who was," Fireheart replied steadily. "Ravenpaw told me." "Oh, very useful," growled Darkstripe. "Ravenpaw's dead. You can tell us he said anything, and nobody can prove you wrong." Fireheart hesitated. He kept the truth about Ravenpaw's escape a secret to protect him from Tigerclaw. But now that Tigerclaw was a prisoner, there would be no more danger, and he needed to reveal everything. "Ravenpaw isn't dead," he explained quietly. "I took him away after Tigerclaw tried to kill him for knowing too much." More uproar as each cat yowled their questions and protests. While Fireheart waited for them to settle down again, he glanced at Tigerclaw. As Cinderpaw's herbs did their healing work, the huge tabby had begun to recover some of his strength. He pushed himself onto his haunches and sat staring out over the crowd with eyes like stones, as if he were challenging any cat to come too close. The news about Ravenpaw must have shocked him, but he did not show it by a single twitch of his whiskers. And the turmoil showed no sign of dying down. Whitestorm raised his voice. "Quiet. Let Fireheart speak." Fireheart dipped his head in thanks to the older warrior. "Ravenpaw told me that Oakheart died when rocks fell on him. Redtail fled from the rockfall and straight into Tigerclaw. Tigerclaw pounced on him and killed him. It's true." Graystripe raised his head from where he still lay in the shade, with Cinderpaw pressing herbs to his wounds. "I was there when Ravenpaw told Fireheart all this, and I've spoken to Cat from RiverClan," Fireheart added. "They tell the same story, that Oakheart died in a rockfall." Fireheart expected more noise then, but it never came. An eerie hush had fallen on the clan. Cats were staring at one another, as if they could find a reason for these terrible revelations in the faces of their friends. Tigerclaw expected to be made deputy then, Fireheart went on, but Bluestar chose Lionheart instead. Then Lionheart died fighting ShadowClan, and at last Tigerclaw achieved his ambition. But being deputy wasn't enough for him. I think he even laid a trap for Bluestar beside the Thunderpath. But Cinderpaw was caught in it instead. He glanced at Cinderpaw as he spoke. to see her eyes widen and her jaws open in a gasp of surprise. Bluestar too looked astonished. Fireheart told me his suspicions, she murmured. Her voice shook. I couldn't believe him. I trusted Tiger Claw. She bowed her head. I was wrong. But how could he expect to be made leader if he killed you? Asked Mousefur. The clan would never support him. I think that's why he planned this attack the way he did, Fireheart ventured. I guess he meant us to think that one of the outlaws killed Bluestar. After all, Fireheart's voice grew hard. You would expect Tiger Claw, the loyal deputy, to lay a claw on his leader. He fell silent. His whole body was quivering, and he felt as limp as a newborn kid. Bluestar, Whitestorm spoke up. But what happened to Tiger Claw now? This question set off a crescendo of furious yelling from the clan. Kill him! Blind him! Drive him out of the forest! Bluestar sat motionless, her eyes closed. Fireheart could feel the pain coming off of her in waves. The bitter shock of betrayal as she discovered that the deputy she had trusted for so long was black at heart. Tiger Claw, he meowed at last. Have you anything to say in your defense? Tiger Claw swung his head around and fixed her with a yellow glare. Defend myself to you? You gutless excuse for a warrior? What sort of leader are you? Keeping the peace with the other clans. Helping them. You barely punished Fireheart and Graystripe for feeding RiverClan, and you sent them to fetch WindClan home. I would have never shown such kitty pet softness. I would have brought back the days of Tiger Clan. I would have made ThunderClan great. And how many cats would have died for it? Bluestar murmured, almost to herself. Fireheart wondered if she was thinking of Thistleclaw, the arrogant, bloodthirsty warrior she could not have let become deputy instead of her. If you have nothing else to say, then I sentence you to exile, the leader announced, her voice cracking. Every word seemed to be dragged out of her. You will leave ThunderClan territory now. If any cat sees you here after sunrise tomorrow, they have my permission to kill you. Kill me? Tiger Claw spoke now, snarling his defiance. I'd like to see them try. Fireheart beat you, Graystripe called out. Fireheart. Tiger Claw turned his pale ember eyes on his enemy, and Fireheart felt his fur prickle at the look of unfeathered hatred there. Cross my path again, you stinking furball. We'll see who's stronger. Fireheart leaped to his paws, anger lending him energy. Any time, Tiger Claw, he spat. No, Bluestar growled. No more fighting. Tiger Claw, leave our sight. Slowly, Tiger Claw got up. His massive head swiveled back and forth as he scanned the crowd of cats. Don't think I'm finished, he hissed. I'll be a leader yet. And any cat who comes with me will be well looked after. Darkstripe. Fireheart craned his neck to see Tiger Claw's chief follower. He waited for Darkstripe to get up and go to Tiger Claw, but the sleek Tabby remained in his place. His shoulders hunched wretchedly. I trusted you, Tiger Claw, he protested. I thought you were the finest warrior in the forest. But you plotted with that tyrant. Fireheart knew he was speaking of Broken Tail. And you said nothing to me. And now you expect me to come with you? He looked away deliberately. Tiger Claw shrugged. I needed Broken Tail's help to make contact with the rogue cats. If you choose to take this personally, that's your problem, he growled. Longtail. Longtail gave a nervous start. Come with you, Tiger Claw? Into exile? His voice shook. No, I can't. I'm loyal to ThunderClan. And you're a coward, Fireheart added silently, catching the fear scent as Longtail shrank back into the crowd of cats. For the first time, a look of uncertainty flickered across Tiger Claw's face. As the few cats he had trusted turned him down. What about you, Dustpelt? He demanded. You'll have richer pickings with me than you ever will in ThunderClan. The young brown tabby got deliberately to his paws and picked his way through the surroundings until he stood in front of Tiger Claw. I looked up to you, he meowed in a clear, level voice. I wanted to be like you, but Redtail was my mentor. I owe him more than any cat. And you killed him. Grief and fury made his limbs shake, but he kept going. You killed him and betrayed the clan. I'd rather die than follow you. He turned and stalked away. A murmur of appreciation rose from the listening cats, and Fireheart heard Whitestorm whisper, Well said, youngster. Tiger Claw, Bluestar broke in. No more of this. Go now. Tiger Claw drew himself up to his full height, his eyes blazing in cold fury. I'm going, but I'll be back. You can be sure of that. I'll be avenged. I'll take my revenge on all of you. He padded unevenly away from the high rock. As he drew close to Fireheart, he paused, drawing his lips back into a snarl. And as for you, he hissed, keep your eyes open, Fireheart. Keep your ears pricked. Keep looking behind you. Because one day, I'll find you, and then you'll be crow food. You're crow food now, Fireheart retorted, struggling to hide the fear that crawled along his spine. Tiger Claw spat, then turned and walked away. The clan cats parted to let him through, every eye tracking him as he went. The great warrior was not completely steady on his paws. His wounds must be bothering him, in spite of Cinderpaw's herbs, Fireheart realized. But he did not stop or look back. The gorse tunnel, swallowed him up, and he was gone. That was the end of chapter 28, and this time I am going to actually take a break. I just wanted to know what happened and like how they were gonna, deal with them. I'll be right back, and then we will start on chapter 29. Hi, I'm back. I see that you're going back to fishing, Holly. You guys ready to find out what happens to the clan now? We have 2 chapters left for this stream. They've been some long chapters. Alright. Chapter 29. As he watched his defeated enemy disappear, Fireheart could not summon up the least of sense of triumph. Surprising himself, he even felt a pang of regret. Tiger Claw could have been a warrior whose deeds would have been told to generations of kids. If only he had chosen loyalty over ambition. Fireheart could almost wail aloud at the waste. All around him, talk was beginning to break out again. As cats mewed urgently to one another about the startling events. Who will be deputy now? He heard Running Wind ask. Fireheart glanced at Bluestar to see if she meant to make an announcement. But she was slipping around the side of the high rock toward her den. Her head was down and her paws dragged as if she were ill. There would be no announcement yet. I think Fireheart should be deputy, Cloudpaw declared, bouncing with excitement. He'd do a great job. Fireheart? Darkstripe's eyes narrowed. A kitty pet? What's wrong with being a kitty pet? Cloudpaw bristled, in front of the much bigger warrior. Fireheart was about to haul himself to his paws and intervene, when White Storm pushed between Darkstripe and the young apprentice. That's enough, he growled. Blue Star will tell us who she chooses before Moon High. That's tradition. Fireheart let his shoulders relax as Cloudpaw scampered off to join the other apprentices. He could see that his apprentice did not realize the seriousness of what had just happened. The older warriors, the ones who had known Tiger Claw well, were looking at one another as if their world had just come to an end. Well now, Fireheart. Graystripe looked up as Fireheart walked over to join his friend and Cinderpaw. Would you want to be deputy? There was a pain in his eyes, and blood still trickled from his mouth. Yet he looked more alive than Fireheart had seen him since Silverstream's death. As if the battle and the exposing of Tiger Claw's villainy had taken his mind off his grief for a moment. Fireheart couldn't prevent a faint prickle of excitement from creeping along his spine. Deputy of ThunderClan? Then he realized how hard a job it would be to pull these scattered, shattered cats together and mold them into a clan again. No, he told Graystripe, and Blue Star would never choose me. He got up, shaking his head as if to put these thoughts out of his mind. How are you feeling? He asked. Are those wounds very bad? He'll be fine, meowed Cinderpaw. But his tongue was scratched and it's still bleeding. I don't know what to do for a scratched tongue. Fireheart, will you fetch Yellowfang for me? Sure. Last Fireheart had seen Yellowfang, she had been dragging Brokentail into her den. She had not reappeared for the condemning of Tiger Claw. He padded across the clearing into the fern tunnel. My model keeps wigging out again. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna change it back to the other setting real quick. We're gonna go to the highest level, level 5. There we go. And on. The calibration's so wonky. Oh my god. I have to leave it on the other one because like it's messing it up. That is so funny. Hold on. I think my model just hates me today. Trying to fix it. I'm gonna have to save my spot in the book real quick. It really does not like me. And now I just want to go back to that dragon. The eyes are being so wide on this one. Hang on, maybe I can just fix the sensitivity of the eyes. I think it's the eyes being way open. Eye open. The eye sensitivity area. And that down. That it's not fixing it. Is it not the blink sensitivity? It is so funny. Doesn't want to work properly. fucking eyes. Can you not break on me today? It doesn't want to not break on me today. If one of the eyes is like going partially closed on the... I can't. I just... This is what I mean about the G-force tracking. It's just... why? How about I try the secondary? It's also messing... It's like just completely frozen. Yeah, the G-force stuff's not working at all anymore. What if I turn it onto level 3 for now? Oh my god. So bad. I should have not messed with it. Now it's messed up. Just completely messed up. I don't know why, but the eye sensitivity is like super messed up right now. I'm trying to fix it. This blink sensitivity, I might have to go to the parameters. See if it's happening in the parameters. Oh yeah, it's like stuck open for some reason. What if I do... Ah, it's like getting stuck at the one. I'll fix that one. And other eye. I don't know why it's doing that. There, I fixed it. I just had to manually go into the settings. I don't know why GeForce does this, but it fucking messes stuff up. Like, it actually messes the base settings up, which is very, very, very interesting. I just had to go into the settings to fix that, which is dumb. Which is 100% dumb. I don't like that, but I fixed it. Okay. Now that that craziness is over, let me go back to reading. Oh wait, why is the left eye is still kind of weird? I think it's at like a offset, like a 1.9. I just had to prevent it from going to wider eyes. That kind of sucks. I'll fix that later. Let's finish this book though. I'll fix that later. The last fire I had seen of Yellowfang, she had been dragging Broken-Tail into her den. She had not reappeared for the condemning of Tigerclaw. He padded across the clearing and into the fern tunnel. As he pushed through the soft green fronds, he heard Yellowfang's voice. Something about it, perhaps its gentleness, so unusual for Yellowfang, made him stay in the shelter of the arching ferns for a moment longer. Still feels so weird to me how it won't do that. If I did like 1.5. That looks a little bit better. It's kind of odd that they're blinking separately because the setting's actually connected right now. It's so weird. Lie still, Broken Tail. You have lost a life. Yellowfang was murmuring. You're going to be fine. I really don't like how it's doing that. You know what? Hang on. I'm going to like reopen it, and maybe that'll fix it. Give me a second. Can you say one? No. I can't, sorry. I'm still trying to fix this damn thing. The One Piece isn't real, how about that? Ask me for shit, you're gonna get the opposite. Like that. And on. And now I'm gonna have to restart the VTube studio because it's deciding to keel over on me. Come on, VTube studio. Work properly, please. The Engi. I've told someone that the One Piece isn't real before and they like freaked out on me. There we go, I got it working again. I just had to fix it. Now I have to turn dark mode back on. Lighting, visual effects, bam. I had to restart my VTube studio for it to work properly. Anyway, hi, welcome in. Yeah, don't mind me. I was like doing tech stuff for the past fucking 15 minutes trying to figure out what's wrong with my model. My model just be wigging out today. Doesn't like me today. Alright. Back to the reading. I'm not gonna fuck with my model anymore, no matter how much it messes up. Lie still, Broken Tail. You have lost a life. Yellowfang was murmuring. You're going to be fine. What do you mean? Snarled Broken Tail, his voice weak from the loss of blood. If I've got another life left, why do my wounds still hurt? StarClan has healed the wound that killed you. Yellowfang explained, still in the same soft murmur that sent prickles along Fireheart's spine. The others need the skill of a medicine cat. Then what are you waiting for, you scrawny old pest? Hissed Broken Tail. Get on with it. Give me something for this pain. All right, I will. Yellowfang's voice suddenly turned icy, cold, and a ripple of fear coursed through Fireheart. Here, eat these berries, and the pain will go away for good. Fireheart peered out of the ferns to see Yellowfang dabbing something with her paw. Carefully, Deliberately, she rolled 3 bright red berries in front of the wounded Broken Tail, guiding his paw until he could touch them. Suddenly, Fireheart was transported back to a snowy day in Leafbear. Cloudkit was staring at a small, dark-leaved bush that bore scarlet berries, and Cinderpaw was saying, "The berries are so poisonous, we call them death berries. Even one could kill you." He drew breath to call out a warning, but Broken Tail was already chewing the berries. Yellowfang stood watching him, the face like stone. "You and my clan cast me out and I came here," she hissed into his ear. "I was a prisoner, just like you. But ThunderClan treated me well. And at last they trusted me enough to be their medicine cat. You could have earned their trust too, but now will any cat ever trust you again?" Broken Tail let out a contemptuous hiss. "Do you think I care?" Yellowfang crouched even closer to him, her eyes gleaming. "I know you care for nothing, Broken Tail. Not your clan, nor your honor, nor your own kin." "I have no kin," Broken Tail spat out the words. "Wrong. Your kin has been closer to me than you ever dreamed of. I'm your mother, Broken Tail." The blind warrior made a curious, rasping noise in his throat, like a terrible attempt at laughter. "Spiders have spun webs in your brain, old one. Medicine cats never have kits." "That's why I had to give you up," Yellowfang told him, seasons of bitterness dripping from each word. "But I never stopped caring. Never. When you were a young warrior, I was so proud of you." Her voice dropped to a low snarl. "And then you murdered Ragged Star, your own father. You killed kits of our clan and made me take the blame. You would have destroyed our clan completely. And now, is a time to put an end to all this treachery." "An end? What do you mean, you old?" Broken Tail cried to rise. Look at that. God dang it. Let me get some water. When I start messing up like that, I'm just like, you know what? Water. Broken Tail tried to rise to his paws, but his legs gave away and he fell heavily onto his side. His voice rose to a thin screech that chilled Fireheart to the bone. "What have you done? I can't feel my paws. Can't breathe. I fed you death berries." Yellowfang's eyes were mere slits as she gazed at him. "I know this is your last life, Broken Tail. Medicine cats always know. Now no cat will ever be hurt again because of you." Broken Tail's jaws parted in a cry of shock and fear. Fireheart thought he could hear regret there too, but the blind warrior was unable to put the words to it. His limbs thrashed, and his paws scrabbled in the dust. His chest heaved as he fought for air. Unable to go on watching, Fireheart backed away and crouched at the other end of the fern tunnel, shivering until the sounds of Broken Tail's last struggle died away. Then, Mindful of Cinderpaws' request, he forced himself to go back, making sure that Yellowfang could hear him pushing his way through the bracken this time. Broken Tail lay motionless in the center of the small clearing. The old medicine cat crouched beside him, her nose pressed to his side. As Fireheart padded up, she raised her head. Her eyes were filled with pain, and she looked older and frailer than ever. But Fireheart knew how strong she was, that the sorrow she felt for Broken Tail would not destroy her. I did everything I could, but he died, she explained. Fireheart could not tell the medicine cat that he knew she was lying. He would never tell any cat what he had just seen and heard. Trying to keep his voice steady, he meowed. Cinderpaw sent me to ask you what to do for a scratched tongue. Yellowfang struggled to her paws, as if she too could feel the numbing touch of death berries. Tell her I'm coming, she rasped. I just need to fetch the right herb. Still unsteady, she staggered over to her den. She did not turn once to look back at Broken Tail's unmoving body. Fireheart thought he would be unable to sleep, but he was so exhausted that as soon as he curled up in his nest, he sank at once into deep unconsciousness. He dreamed that he was standing in a high place, the wind ruffling his fur, and the stars of Silverpelt blazing with icy fire above his head. A warm, familiar scent drifted into his nostrils, and he turned his head to see Spotted Leaf. She padded up to him and touched her nose gently to his. StarClan is calling you, Fireheart, she murmured. Do not be afraid. Then she faded, leaving him with nothing but the wind and the stars. StarClan calling me? Fireheart thought, puzzled. Am I dying then? Fear jerked him awake, and he gasped with relief when he found himself safe in the dim light of the den. His wounds from the battle still stung, and he got up, his limbs protesting stiffly. But his strength was returning. Still, it was hard to control his shivering. Had Spotted Leaf just prophesied his death? And he realized that the chill he felt was not just because of fear. Remember that I have been, believe it or not. Every time I mess up, I kind of hydrate because then it makes my voice slicker, so I stop catching my tongue on the roof of my mouth. So it, kind of helps me roll all the words off better. Yeah, I'll drink some more right now, so you don't have to worry. Did you see the sussy baka that came by and said, "Oh, why don't you say the One Piece is real?" Fluff you, One Piece fan. One Piece isn't real. No gold for you. Then he realized that the chill he felt was not just because of fear. The den, usually warm from sleeping bodies, was cold and empty. Outside he could hear the murmuring of many cats. When he pushed his way out to join them, he saw that nearly all the clan was already assembled in the clearing, with the pale light of dawn just rising above the trees. Sandstorm pushed away through the group of cats. Fireheart, she mewed urgently. Moonhigh has come and gone, and Bluestar hasn't named the new deputy. What? Fireheart stared at the pale ginger she-cat in alarm. The warrior code has been broken. Starry Clan will be angry, he murmured. We must have a deputy, Sandstorm went on, lashing her tail in agitation. But Bluestar won't even come out of her den. Whitestorm tried to talk to her, but she sent him away. She's still shocked about Tiger Claw, Fireheart pointed out. But she's the leader of this clan, retorted Sandstorm. She can't just curl up in her den and forget about the rest of us. Fireheart knew she was right, but he could not stifle a pang of sympathy for Bluestar. He knew how much she had depended on Tiger Claw, loyally defending him against Fireheart's accusations. She had chosen him to be her deputy, and had trusted him to help her lead the clan. She must have shattered to realize that she had been wrong all along, and that never again would she be able to count on Tiger Claw's strength and fighting skills. She won't forget, he began and broke off. Bluestar was stumbling around the high rock from her den. She looked old and weary as she sat down in front of the rock, making no attempt to climb it. Cats of ThunderClan, she rasped, barely loud enough to be heard over the anxious muttering. Listen, and I will appoint the new deputy. Every cat was already turning towards her, and she clearly fell, feelingly silent. I say these words before StarClan, that the spirits of our ancestors may hear and approve my choice. Bluestar paused again, staring down at her paws for so long that Fireheart wondered if she had forgotten what she was going to say. Perhaps she had not even decided yet who the new deputy would be. One or two cats had begun to whisper uneasily, but as Bluestar raised her head again, they stopped. The new deputy will be Fireheart, she announced clearly. As soon as she had spoken, she rose to her paws again and patted around the rock on legs that seemed made of stone. The whole clan froze. Fireheart felt as though a thorn had pierced his heart. He was to be made deputy. He wanted to call Bluestar back and tell her there must be a mistake. He was barely a warrior. Then he heard Cloudpaw's shrill voice raise gleefully. I knew it! Fireheart's the new deputy. Close by, Darkstripe snarled. Oh yes? Well, I'm not taking orders from a kitty pet. A few of the cats padded over to Fireheart and congratulated him. Graystripe and Sandstorm were among the first, and Cinderpaw, purring enthusiastically, and throwing herself at him to give his face a thorough licking. But other cats, Fireheart noticed, slipped quietly away and did not speak to him at all. It was clear that they were as startled by Bluestar's choice as Fireheart himself. Was this what Spotted had meant in his dream? When she told him that StarClan was calling to him, calling him to new responsibilities within his clan. Do not be afraid, she had told him. Oh, Spotted Leaf, Fireheart thought desperately, as fear and uncertainty flooded his mind. How can I not be afraid? One chapter left. Chapter 30. Quick break, and then we will do the last chapter for the stream. BRB. I'm back. I just had to use the restroom. Let me drink some water before we start again. Then Lechi won't yell at me. Water. Are you guys ready for chapter 30? Last chapter of the book. We're gonna start a new book next month. Well, not next month. Next week. I forgot that it's already October. This is the first Friday of the entirety of October. Spooky stream is not too far off. Alright. Chapter 30. Well, planned Deputy. White Storm meowed softly in his ear. What would you like me to do now? Fireheart realized his offer was genuine, and he flashed the great white warrior a grateful glance. He knew White Storm could have expected to become deputy himself, and his support would be valuable to Fireheart in the days to come. Yes, now, he began, frantically trying to think of what most urgent priorities would be. With a jolt, he realized that he was trying to imagine what Tiger Claw would have done. Food. We all need to eat. Cloudpaw, start taking fresh kill to the elders. Get the other apprentices to help the queens in the nursery. Cloudpaw shot off with a flick of his tail. Mousefur, Darkstripe, find yourselves 2 or 3 warriors each and go out on a hunting patrol. Split the territory between you. We need more fresh kill right away, and keep a lookout for the rogues or Tiger Claw while you're at it. Mousefur moved away with a calm nod, collecting Brackenfur and Willowpelt as she went. But Darkstripe glared at Fireheart for so long that Fireheart began to wonder what he should do if the Dark Warrior really refused to obey him. He met the pale blue gaze steadily, and at last Darkstripe turned away, meowing to Longtail and Dustpelt to follow him. All Tiger Claw sympathizers, White Storm observed as he watched them go. You'll need to keep an eye on them. Yes, I know, Fireheart admitted. But surely they've shown that they're more loyal to the clan than to Tiger Claw. I hope they'll accept me if I don't tread on their tails. White Storm gave a non-committal grunt. Anything for me to do? Asked Graystripe. Yes, Fireheart gave his friends an ear quick lick. Go back to your nest and rest. You were badly wounded yesterday. I will bring you a piece of fresh kill. Oh, okay. Thanks, Fireheart. Graystripe returned to the lick and vanished into the den. Fireheart padded over to the pile of fresh kill, where he found Cinderpaw clawing a magpie out of the dwindling heap. I'll take this to Blue Star, she offered. I need to check her wound. And then I'll take some prey for Yellowfin. Good idea, Fireheart meowed, beginning to feel more confident as his rapid orders seemed to be restoring things to normal. Tell her if she needs any help collecting herbs, she can have Cloudpaw once he's seen to the elders. Okay, Cinderpaw chuckled. You certainly know how to make your apprentices work, Fireheart. She bit down into the magpie and dropped it at once with a retch of disgust. The flesh of the dead bird fell away from the bones to reveal a writhing mass of white maggots. A foul stench hit Fireheart and he winced. Cinderpaw backed away, passing her tongue around her mouth over and over again as she stared at the rotting carcass. Her dark gray fur was fluffed up and her blue eyes wide. Crow food, she whispered. Crow food among the fresh kill? What does that mean? Fireheart couldn't imagine how the rotten magpie had gotten there. No cat would have brought it in. Even the youngest apprentice knew better than that. What does it mean? Cinderpaw repeated. Fireheart suddenly realized she wasn't thinking about any practical reasons for how maggot-ridden prey had ended up in the pile. "Do you think it's an omen?" he croaked. "A message from StarClan?" "It might be," Cinderpaw shivered, and stared at him with huge blue eyes. "StarClan hasn't spoken to me yet. Fireheart, not since the ceremony to Moonstone. I don't know if it's an omen or not, but if it is, it must be for Bluestar," Fireheart finished. His fur prickled as he realized this was the first sign of Cinderpaw's new powers as an apprentice medicine cat. "We are going to take the magpie to her." He felt a thrill of horror at the thought of what the omen might mean. Was StarClan trying to say that Bluestar's leadership was rotting away from the inside? Even though Tigerclaw's outer threat had gone? No, he meowed firmly. That can't be right. Bluestar's problems are over. Some cat's been careless, that's all, and brought Crowfood back by mistake. But he didn't believe his own words, and he could tell that Cinderpaw didn't either. "I'll ask Yellowfang," she mewed, shaking her head in bewilderment. "She'll know." Cinderpaw quickly snatched a bowl from the heap and began limping rapidly across the clearing. Fireheart called after her, "Don't tell any cat except Yellowfang. The clan mustn't know. I'll bury this." She flicked her tail to show she had heard and vanished among the ferns. Fireheart glanced around to make sure that no other cat had overheard their conversation or seen the decaying magpie. Bile rose in his throat as he gripped the bird by the tip of one wing and dragged it to the edge of the clearing. He didn't begin to relax until he scraped up enough earth to cover the entire vile thing. Even then, he could not get it out of his mind. If the rotting, maggot-filled Crowfood was indeed an omen, what new disasters did StarClan have in store for ThunderClan and their leader now? By sun high, Clan had settled down again. The hunting patrols had returned. All the cats were full fed, and Fireheart was beginning to think it was time he went to Bluestar's den to see if she would like to talk to him about leading the clan. He was distracted by movement in the gorse tunnel. 4 RiverClan cats appeared, the same 4 who had joined in the battle the day before: Leopardfur, Mistyfoot, Stonefur, and Blackclaw. Leopardfur bore a newly healed wound across one dappled shoulder, and Blackclaw's ear was torn at the tip, proof of how they had fought with ThunderClan to drive out the rogue cats. Fireheart wished he could believe that they were all right, but deep down he knew their mission had to do with Graystripe's kids, struggling to hide the heaviness in his heart. He padded across the clearing and dipped his head to Leopardfur. Not the respectful signal from a warrior to a deputy, but a courteous greeting between equals. "Greetings," meowed Leopardfur, her eyes registering surprise at Fireheart's new attitude. "We need to speak to your leader." Fireheart hesitated, wondering how much to explain. It would take the rest of the day to tell the full story of Tigerclaw's treachery, and to describe how Fireheart himself had been named deputy. In a heartbeat's pause, he decided to tell the visiting patrol nothing. Even RiverClan, though they seemed friendly now, might be tempted to attack a clan that seemed to be weak. The next gathering would be soon enough for them to know. He bowed his head once more and went to look for Bluestar. To his relief, the clan leader was sitting in her den, finishing a piece of fresh kill. She looked more like herself than Fireheart had seen her since Tiger Claw's attack. As he announced himself at the entrance to the Oh. Hi, thank you for following. We're currently on the last chapter of Warriors Forest of Secrets. I do ASMR every Friday, and we do about 5 chapters, except for when at the beginning of the book, then I add in the prologue, and also like the little snippets of it. Thank you for joining. As he announced himself at the entrance to the den, Bluestar looked up, swallowing the last of her mouse. Her tongue swiped around her jaws and she meowed. Fireheart, come in. We have a great deal to discuss. Yes, Bluestar, Fireheart knew. But not now. The River Clan warriors are here. Ah. Bluestar rose to her paws and stretched. I was expecting them. Although I hoped they wouldn't come back quite so soon. She led the way out of her den to where the patrol was waiting. By now, Baystripe had appeared and seemed to be exchanging news with Mistyfoot. Fireheart hoped he was not telling her too much, as he settled down a respectful distance from the River Clan patrol. Other cats, too, were gathering around, their faces revealing their curiosity about the reason for River Clan Cat's visit. When Bluestar had greeted the newcomers, Leopardfur began. We've talked for so long about Silverstream's kits, and we've decided that they belong to RiverClan. 2 RiverClan kits died yesterday. They had been born too soon. Their mother, Greenflower, has agreed to suckle these newborns. We think it may be a sign from StarClan. The kits will be well cared for. They're well cared for here, Fireheart exclaimed. Leopardfur glanced at him, but still spoke directly to Bluestar. Crooked Star has sent us to fetch them. Her voice was calm but determined, showing that she genuinely believed in her clan's right to take the kits. Besides, Mistyfoot added, the kids are older now, and the river has gone down enough to allow safe passage across. They'll be able to cope with the journey to our camp. Yes, meowed Leopardfur, with an approving look at the younger warrior. We could have taken the kits before this, but we care just as much about their welfare as you. Bluestar drew herself up. Though she moved stiffly, she still looked exhausted. Outwardly, at least, she had recovered the authority of a leader. The kids are half ThunderClan, she reminded Leopardfur. I've already told you. I'll give you my decision at the next gathering. The decision is not yours to make. The RiverClan deputy's tone had an edge like ice. At her words, meows of protest rose from the assembled cats. Cheek, spat Sandstorm, from where she sat close to Fireheart. Who does she think she is, walking in here and telling us what to do? Fireheart padded over to Bluestar and murmured in her ear. Bluestar, these are Graystripe's kids. You can't send them away. Bluestar twitched her ears. You can tell Crooked Star, she calmly addressed the visitors, that ThunderClan will fight to keep these kits. Leopardfur's lips drew back in the beginnings of a snarl, while ThunderClan cats yowled their approval. Then a louder meow rose above the rest. No! Fireheart's fur began to prickle. It was Graystripe. The big gray cat came to stand beside Bluestar. Fireheart winced when he saw the looks of suspicion that ThunderClan gave him, and how they drew back as he passed. But Graystripe seemed to have hardened himself against their hostility, glancing first at the RiverClan patrol and then the cats of his own clan. He meowed, "Leopard Fur is right. Kits belong to their mother's clan. I think we should let them go." Fireheart froze. He wanted to protest, but he could find no words. The rest of the clan was just as silent, except for Yellowfang, who muttered, "He's mad." "Graystripe, think again," Bluestar urged him. "If I let Leopard Fur take these kits, they are lost to you forever. They will grow up in another clan. They will not know you as their kin. One day you may even have to fight them." Fireheart heard the sorrow in her voice as she spoke and saw her eyes straying to Mistyfoot and Stonefur. Her words were full of such bitter knowledge that he wondered how any cat could listen to her and not realize the truth about the kits their leader had lost so long ago. "I understand," Bluestar, Graystripe agreed, "but I've caused enough trouble for this clan. I won't ask them to fight for my kits." He paused and added to Leopard Fur, "If Bluestars agree, I will bring the kits to the stepping stones at sunset. I give you my word." "Graystripe, don't!" Fireheart burst out. Graystripe turned his yellow eyes to his friend. Fireheart saw pain there, and measureless unhappiness, but also a determination that made him realize there was something in his friend's mind that Fireheart himself did not yet understand. "Don't," he repeated softly, but Graystripe did not reply. Sandstorm pushed her nose into Fireheart's fur and murmured a few words of comfort, but Fireheart felt too numb to respond. He was vaguely aware of Cinderpaw nudging Sandstorm on the other side and whispering, "Not now, Sandstorm. There's nothing we can say. Leave him be." Bluestar bowed her head for several long moments. Fireheart could see how much of her hastily summoned strength was ebbing away in the confrontation and how desperately she needed rest. At last she spoke. "Graystripe, are you sure?" The gray warrior lifted his chin. "Quite sure." "In that case," Bluestar went on, "I agree to your demands, Leopard Fur. Graystripe will bring the kits to the stepping stones at sunset." Leopard Fur looked startled to win an agreement so quickly. She exchanged a glance with Blackclaw, almost as if she were asking if there could be any trickery here. "Then we will hold you to your word," she meowed, turning back to the ThunderClan leader. "In the name of StarClan, see that you keep it." She dipped her head to Bluestar and led her cats away. Fireheart watched them go and turned to plead once more with Graystripe. But his friend was already vanishing into the nursery. As the sun slid down the trees, Fireheart waited by the gorse tunnel. Leaves rustled above his head and the air was filled with warm scents of late newly. But he was barely conscious of his surroundings. His mind was full of thoughts of Graystripe. There was no way he was going to let his friend give up his kits without making one last attempt to stop him. At last, Greystripe emerged from the nursery, herding the two kits on stumpy, unsteady legs in front of him. The small, dark gray Tom already looked as if he would grow into a sturdy warrior, while the she-cat with her silvery coat was a copy of her mother, promising the same beauty and swiftness. Goldenflower followed them out of the nursery and dipped her head to touch the noses with both kits. "Farewell, my beloveds," she mewed sadly. The two kits let out bewildered meows as Greystripe nudged them away, and Goldenflower's own kits nuzzled the mother's flank, as if they meant to comfort her. "Greystripe," Fireheart began, stepping forwards as his friend approached with the kits. "Don't say anything," Greystripe interrupted him. "You'll understand soon. Will you come with me to the stepping stones? I need your help to carry the kits." "Of course, if you want me to." Fireheart was ready to agree to anything that seemed to offer the smallest chance of persuading Greystripe to change his mind about keeping the kits. The two warriors padded together through the forest, as they had done so many times before. They each carried one of the kits. The tiny scraps mewed and wriggled, as if they wanted to walk on their own paws. Fireheart did not know how his friend could bear to give them up. Had Bluestar felt like this, he wondered, when she looked at her own kits for the last time before letting Oakheart have them. By the time they reached the stepping stones, the red light of sunset was fading. The moon was beginning to rise, and the river was silvery ribbon that reflected the pale sky. Its liquid murmur filled the air, and the long grass on the edge of the shore felt fresh and cool beneath Fireheart's paws. Fireheart set down the kit he was carrying in a soft clump of grass, and Greystripe placed the other gently beside it. Then he moved away a pace or two, jerking his head for Fireheart to follow him. "You're right," he meowed. "I can't give up my kits." Sudden joy flooded through Fireheart. Greystripe had changed his mind. They could take the kits home and face up to the threat of RiverClan, whatever it might be. Then his heart froze as Greystripe went on. "Oh, hi, welcome in. I am currently on the last chapter of the Warriors Book 3, Forest of Secrets. I do ASMR each Friday, and I do about 5 chapters, except for when I do prologues, because I add those in. Thank you for joining." Then his heart froze as Greystripe went on. "I'm going with them, but all I have left of Silverstream, and she told me to take care of them. I'd die if I were parted from them." Fireheart stared at him, his mouth dropping open. "What? You can't," he gasped. "You belong to ThunderClan." Greystripe shook his head. "Not anymore. They don't want me. Not since they found out about Silverstream. And they'll never trust me again." Oh, hello. Welcome in. Thank you for the follow. Again, I am on the last chapter of Warriors, Forest of Secrets, which is book 3 of the series. I do ASMR each Friday. 5 chapters, except for when there's a prologue, I add that in. Thank you. Enjoy your time. "They'll never trust me again. I don't even know if I want them to trust me anymore. I don't think I've got any clan loyalty left." His words clutched at Fireheart's belly, like claws of an enemy, trying to tear it into shreds. "Oh, Graystripe," he whispered. "What about me? I want you there. I'd trust you with my life, and I'd never betray you." Graystripe's yellow eyes were brimming with sorrow. "I know," he murmured. "No cat ever had such a friend as you. I'd give my life for you, you know that. And stay in ThunderClan." "I can't. That's the only thing I can't do for you. I belong with my kits, and they belong to RiverClan." "Oh, Fireheart. Fireheart." His voice trailed off into an anguished wail. "I'm being torn in two." Fireheart pressed close to him, licking his ear and feeling the trembling that racked his friend's powerful body. They had been through so much together. Graystripe had been the first clan cat he had ever spoken to, as a kitty pet lost in the woods.
Why are you so sus?
Oh, hello. Hello, welcome in. Currently reading Warriors, Book 3, Force of Secrets, last chapter. We're getting towards the end here. I do ASMR each Friday, 5 chapters, except for when there's a prologue, I add in the prologue. He had been his first friend in ThunderClan. They had trained together and been made warriors together. They had hunted in the hot days of Greenleaf, when the air was filled with the scent and murmuring of bees, and through a bitter leaf bare when the whole world was frozen. Hi, welcome to the chat. Welcome in. Together they had discovered the truth about Tigerclaw, and risked Bluestar's anger to do it. Hi. And now it was coming to an end. But worst of all, Fireheart could not find the words to argue with his friend. It was true that ThunderClan still mistrusted the Grey Warrior for his love of Silverstream, and they showed no sign that they would ever fully accept his kits. If they had fought to keep them, it would have only been for the honor of the clan. Oh my god, hi. Welcome in. I do ASMR every Friday, 5 chapters. And if there's a prologue, I do a prologue. Currently on Warriors Force of Secrets. And we are on the last chapter. So after this chapter, I'm actually ending stream. But next week, we get to enjoy the beginning of the next book, which would be book 4. Also, welcome to the chat. Hi. Welcome in. If they had fought to keep them, it would have only been honor for the honor of the clan. Fireheart could see no future for his friend or the kits in ThunderClan. At last, Graystripe moved away and went back to call the kits. They stumbled up to him, mewling, in tiny, high-pitched voices. "It's time," he meowed softly to Fireheart. "I'll see you at the next gathering." It won't be the same. Graystripe held his gaze for a long moment. No, it won't be the same. Then he turned and carried one of the kits down the shore to the stepping stones. Leaping over the gaps, the kit gripped safely by the scruff. On the opposite bank, a gray shape slipped out of the reeds and stood waiting while Graystripe returned for the second kit. Fireheart recognized Mistyfoot, Silverstream's best friend. He knew she would love these kits as much as her own, but no cat could feel more strongly for Graystripe than Fireheart had done. Never again, his heart was crying. No more patrols, no more play fights, no more sharing tongues in the den after a day of hunting. No more laughter shared or dangers faced together. It's over. There was nothing he could do or say. He watched helplessly as Graystripe and the second kit reached the far riverbank. Mistyfoot touched noses with the Grey Warrior, then bent to sniff the kits. With unspoken agreement, she and Graystripe each picked up a kit, and all 4 cats disappeared into the reeds. Fireheart stayed there for a long time, watching the silver water as it slid past the shore. When the moon had risen above the trees, he forced himself to his paws and padded back into the forest. He felt a sadness and loneliness greater than anything he had ever felt before. But at the same time, he could sense a surge of energy rising from deep inside himself. He had revealed the truth about Tiger Claw and stopped the deputy from causing any more destruction within the clan. Bluestar had honored him beyond measure by choosing him to be her second in command. He could go on from this moment, guided by his leader, with Spotted Leaf and Star Clan watching over him. Unconsciously, his pace quickened. By the time Fireheart reached the ravine, he was running, his flame-colored pelt a blur in the lilac dusk, eager to return to ThunderClan and his new life as their deputy. That was the last chapter. That was the last snippet. That was a long time coming. Since the first book, there has been a lot of snippets about Tiger Claw betraying the clan, and then it finally came true in this book. So for those of you that are new, the Warrior series is the Warrior Cat series. Fireheart used to be a kitty pet, aka a pet. He was taken in by the Thunder Clan, and Tiger Claw had always been greatly against him. Shadow Clan was an enemy clan that had fallen apart and also attacked Wind Clan. The Wind Clan Fireheart had brought back, and the River Clan, as we saw in this book, actually has some of the Bluestar's kits. They never know that they were Bluestar's kits, but they found out. A lot of Tiger Claw's treachery was uncovered this book, and Fireheart had come clean about that finally to the clan because they finally believed him due to the treachery with the outsider cats. It was actually shown in the second book that he was talking to these cats, but they had never caught wind of it. He had asked Princess to look for anything weird happening, but Princess was just a kitty pet and did not know anything that was going on. And Princess was his sister. Cloud Kit, aka now Cloud Paw, is his sister's eldest born, which became a apprentice under him. And then you have Cinderpaw, which used to be an apprentice under Fireheart, but had gotten mangled by a car that had veered off the road. from one of Tiger Claw's traps, which was meant for the leader of the clan. There is a little bit of fantasy in this book series when it involves the clans, because the leaders get the 9 lives that cats are quoted to have in mythology. And then the medicine cats get to see prophecies. And that's all that's about different from normal stuff. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the book. If you are wanting to see it, I actually have them posted on YouTube for the VODs. If you missed out on the previous chapters and books, I have been posting those VODs for that. Other than that, I thank you guys for coming by. It's actually crazy so many of you followed me today. Thank you for that. And I hope to see you guys on next Friday too. I will be... Oh, hello. Thank you for coming in. I'm actually ending soon. I do ASMR every Friday. I do book readings, and I do about 5 chapters. Unless it has a prologue, I add the prologue in. But welcome in. So, the only thing that I'm going to be doing differently this month is on Halloween. Halloween is a Friday. I'm going to be doing a spooky script reading stream for Halloween only. And I'm also going to be rewriting one of my stories from high school. And I will be reading that out. And it's actually a grim tale. I was inspired by Edgar Allan Poe at the time. And I'm rewriting it now because I never actually got that back from my teacher, but I remembered the whole gist of the story that I wrote, which is, it's a grim tale tragedy, which is kind of perfect for Halloween, you know? Anyway, thank you guys for coming by, and I hope you have enjoyed the book reading session. Again, if you want to see me next Friday, we're gonna be starting on book 4 for the Warrior series, and I'm probably going to be doing the prologue through chapter 5, which is essentially like 0 through 5. Thank you guys, and I will see you guys later. Bye bye.